Nice, nice. You're one of those
Yeah.
like super bounce backer type of folks. It sounds like so. That's good for
Not
you.
not always.
Good for
Not
you, I
always.
guess.
Saturday night, my dogs were super happy that we were home, and I think I was up with them 4 times.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha, gotcha.
yesterday was a bit rough.
Sure, sure. Well, Mrs. Vogt, let's dive into it. School report card data is out. This has been kind of the hot topic amongst your peers with me here the
Yeah.
last few weeks. How did Bement schools fare with the report card this year?
Yeah. So all three of our schools are commendable, which I appreciate that. I'm not sure how many people were aware, but last year our high school did not have a rating because we didn't have enough students in all of the necessary subgroups in order for them to have a rating. So this year we actually have a rating for our high school, and so we are commendable across the board. Um, just some of the things that we have specifically highlighted for the school board in particular is our graduation rate increased from 81.5% to 92%.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we're talking a high school population of less than 100 students, average 20-25 students per class, one or two students can really make a difference in those percentages.
Mm-hmm.
Our mobility, students moving in and out during the year decreased from 8.6% to 7.2%. So we like that. And our teacher retention increased from 87.3% to 88.3%. So
Okay.
our teachers are staying. And then our chronic absenteeism decreased from 24% to 20%.
Yeah.
So, with student attendance improving, mobility decreasing, graduation rate improving, I feel like we are headed in the right direction. And then along with sharing our district report card information at our November board meeting, our auditor was present and presented our annual financial report. There is a total rating of 4 points, taking into consideration different areas like the fund balance to revenue, expenditures to revenue, days cash on hand, short-term borrowing, long-term borrowing, etc. And our score was a 3.9 out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of joke, well, I guess that leaves a little bit of room for improvement, but a 3.9 out of 4, I'll take it. We have 2 years worth of cash on hand. So, when I started, we were again headed in the right direction, and I feel like we're continuing to make improvements as far as our curriculum, our school environment, and then also financially.
Is there a connection between the absenteeism and the graduation rate in Bement?
That's a really good question, Seth. I feel like we see more of an issue with absenteeism in our early elementary grades than we do with our high schoolers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was so impressed. Our high schoolers last year, we had a couple of seniors who just in their personal situations, they were responsible for getting themselves to and from school and working. Like they would leave school, work until midnight, get up, come to school again. And they were coming to school because they wanted to get that diploma. They wanted to graduate. But for those early elementary students, they depend on their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're very fortunate. Our Macon Pyatt Regional Office of Education, James Calloway, and he's a truant officer with Chad Ramey. Some of those students at the early elementary levels, we went ahead and had our truant officers visit those parents to explain to them the importance of having their child come to school.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a child missing 10% of their school career, it's really a negative long-term impact. So that's where we see it is at those early elementary grades.
Gotcha. So when it comes to the graduation piece of it that you talked about, folks here, 80% of kids graduate and then jumped up to 91, but in a school size of Bement, it probably only takes one or two kids with maybe, outside circumstances that are out of the norm to really influence that number.
That's correct. Yes. We had my first year here, we had a student who, again, my first year was fall of 2022. So we were still recovering from, learning through the pandemic, and that high school senior, it was too much for them to come to school all day, every day. And they ended up withdrawing and doing online coursework to get a diploma. But what that did was it reflected that we had somebody who started the school year who didn't graduate.
Hmm.
So then, like you said, that one student caused that graduation rate to go down significantly. So,
Is that a
we just
frustration for you with the way they grade out the report card?
absolutely, absolutely. It's kind of like a public school versus private school in the football playoffs. You've got your public schools that draw from communities of 1,000, 2,000. Your private schools draw from several hundred thousand. My percentage comparison is based on 22 students, and then I'm compared to a state average where you have in some districts thousands of students, and one or two don't make or break the district. But for me, one or two students can significantly change what is reported.
Yeah, for sure. Now, does that, again, Mary Vogt, superintendent of Bement Schools, on the Zoom call with us, when you talk about the way they do things with the report card, Mrs. Vogt, does that get taken into account? Is that your student body size is not large? So, very, very small percentages of a small number make a big impact. You know what I'm saying? So do they take that
Absolutely.
into account?
No. No. So like I said, with our high school, we did not have a rating last year because we did not have enough students across the board for certain areas that are included in the rating. And so, it is frustrating because I would like to know how we are performing, and we can't always know because we are so small.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And Seth, I'm not the smallest district in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So there are superintendents out there who I know share this frustration
Yeah, absolutely.
because, there are things that hinge upon the report card and areas of growth or areas of decline. And, sometimes it's like, hey, we're talking about one student here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't penalize us for one student.
Well, taking a look at how you improve, and make your numbers better, what has Bement Schools been doing? What are you going to do in the future to maybe improve on some of these things we're talking about here?
Yeah, so like I said, it really starts at the elementary level, and trying to incentivize students to want to be at school and educate parents to make sure they understand how important it is for their child to attend school.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to establish that culture at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
Please be here. That's the number one priority. And then as students, enter middle school, high school, we're able to offer more opportunities for them here last year, this year. Last month we talked with the students who went to Minnesota for the Kidwind competition. So seeing that interest in STEM education, we are adding a STEM class at our high school.
Mm-hmm.
In our district, when students attend Parkland for dual credit classes, we pay the tuition for those classes. So we have students who could graduate high school with an associate's degree or close to an associate's degree,
Mm-hmm.
and the district has paid for that college coursework. So
Sure.
just trying to make sure that students understand we want them to want to be at school.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that we're offering opportunities for them that they wouldn't get if they go and take classes to get a GED.
It's interesting you say that because that's kind of been the way the conversation has gone for a few of your peers that I've had on the show is that, we need to give kids a reason to come to school. And I venture a guess in a district like Bement where you probably can't offer, 6 fall sports and you can't offer, all the in-school programs, that maybe a Clinton or a Monticello or even a Decatur Champaign can. So where do you find yourselves making up that difference in the margins, if you will?
And that's where, we are getting creative. We're working collaboratively with other school districts to try to obtain some grant funds. So that's a project I hope someday I'm able to say, hey, Seth, listen to what we're doing. But, we're getting creative. We're working with other districts. We're trying to partner to, funnel some grant funds into multiple smaller districts working together so that all of our students benefit. So
Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. No doubt about it. Very good. Report card, Mrs. Vogt. Did I miss anything in that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on? Anything
no,
positive, negative that
no.
stood out?
Yeah, I feel like what our report card reflects is, again, we're continuing to make progress. I feel like most people want that, um, you know, highest rating, and sure, we would love to have it too, but my focus is that we are slowly but surely making progress, and we'll get back there someday.
That is Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, our guest on the Zoom call. More to come with Mrs. Vogt on the morning show. WHOW. Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW. Morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone or the Zoom call here for this morning. And Mrs. Vogt, you mentioned that the financial outlook of the district is very positive at this point. Let's talk about the levy. Tell us about this year's levy.
Yeah, so this year's levy, we are, I'll give a brief rundown of the levy process, because sometimes I feel like when people hear the amount that we're requesting, they think their taxes are going to go up, and that is not the case. So what the levy means is it's the amount of money that a school district or public body, public taxing body is requesting from the taxpayers. I could request $100 billion, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to get $100 billion. It means that what I try to do is make my best estimate on how much money I think will be available for our district. If I were to request a $200,000 increase, but there was actually $300,000 available for our district, I would only get the 200,000 because I didn't ask for what's available. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes what districts will do is ask for more than they think they will get. And then, so say I ask for 400,000, but 300,000 is available for us, then I would still get that 300,000. 300 is available for us and I only ask for 200, that's known as leaving money on the table. And if we leave money on the table, then those are funds that we could put to use for our students and curriculum and just to benefit the district. So for our tax levy this year, what we are requesting is a 6.4% increase in funds over last year. But then, Seth, as we do the math on that, the rate change, the tax rate change is 0.0000. So even though we are requesting 6.4% more than what we received last year, we are not requesting that it would make any change to the tax rate for the school district.
How does that work?
And well, how much time do you have? So a large component for estimating the tax levy is EAV, estimated assessed valuation. And so what we do is we work with the county. So we have property for the district in Champaign and Piatt counties. So I get the information from Champaign and Piatt counties. Interestingly, just the timeline of all of it, they don't have the calculations for next year's EAV until after we have to file the levy. So that's why everything is an estimate. We have to have a notice on the website 30 days prior to our truth and taxation hearing. Anytime you're requesting more than 5% or more than the previous year, you have to have a truth and taxation hearing. So 30 days before the truth and taxation, we have to have everything on the website. At least 20 days before the truth and taxation, the board has to approve that they're willing to increase by 5% or more. And then we have to publish in the newspaper 7 to 14 days before that hearing that we are going to have a truth and taxation hearing. So there's a lot that needs to be done, all based on an estimate that then we find out after we actually file the levy if we were pretty close in our estimate. So that's a lot of gray area for something extremely important. A district our size, most of our funds come from these local tax funds. And it's just, we do what the state tells us we have to do and make our most educated guess based on previous years.
What is the overall budget for Bement schools, Mrs. Vogt?
We run about a $4 million operating budget.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And most of that comes from local taxes then.
Yes.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very good.
Yep.
Well, so levy time is upon us. And when do you receive all those dollars? Like, is it a lump sum payment or how does that work?
So essentially when, if you think about as a homeowner, when you make your tax payments, it's after those tax payments are made that public bodies who receive tax funds, then those funds are dispersed to those public bodies.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, I look at the clock. I've got about a minute and a half here with you. What's your holiday schedule look like with the kids? They're back, of course, from Thanksgiving today. What's the rest of the semester look like over there?
Yeah, so we start this Wednesday is our middle school and high school winter program, and then next week we have our elementary program. Our high school students have finals December 19th and 20th. And then here in the meantime, like this weekend, we're hosting the Mike Walsh basketball tournament. Next weekend, there's the Mike Walsh Memorial 5K coming up. So, several athletic and entertainment events for the community. Okay.
And then, of course, it's off to the holiday break. When is last day for students?
Last day for students is on that Friday, December 20th. Everyone dismisses at 2:00 that day. And then our teachers come back on Friday, January 3rd. And then the students come back that next Monday. So what would that be? January 6th. So students get 2 solid weeks off. Staff almost get 2 solid weeks off.
Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, always good to talk with you. Thanks for making time for us. Where do folks go to learn about all things Bement schools, by the way?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
Very good. Again, Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, our guest on the Zoom call this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance. WHOW.